Welcome to this brief demonstration of iCONECT-XERA review platform. Unlike an in-depth, everything under the sun presentation, this recording is tailored specifically to users that are currently familiar with iCONECT's earlier nXT platform and have an interest in benefiting from XERA's enhanced workflow and functionality. At iCONECT, we understand the initial hesitation one feels at the thought of moving from familiar tools into something new, the apprehension around training, of feeling comfortable with your tools, and continuing to be productive. This high-level look at XERA is precisely for you. First, let's run through some of the enhanced functionality you'll find within XERA. The idea behind this product, of course, was to provide access, navigation, and collaboration on projects in ways that are familiar and easy to use with the way you interact with technology nowadays. For example, a couple of key highlights that are much different in XERA than not just nXT, but any other platform you may have worked with. It's a simple fact that, one, we have true multi-browser support. If your preference is to work in Chrome, Firefox, or Safari, those are all supported. Support off of tablet devices, and all of those familiar tools, swiping, scrolling, a non-Outlook look and feel to the technology. Making use of facet searching, much like Amazon and Travelocity, a number of commercial websites. You'll see some of that functionality coming inside. Analytics integration, including something very specific and unique to XERA called the exemplar, the whole notion of custom, fine, similar, virtual style documentation. Making use of iView dynamic visualization reports and filters. A multi-language interface. Built-in collaboration or communication, much like a Facebook or a Twitter style feel, making use of everyone's preference for social media and the popularity behind those things. And then, of course, holding it all together is a truly simplified, streamlined navigation. And I think when you compare that to nXT in particular, you'll really see where the benefits come into place as you imagine the nXT interface as we walk through some of those items within XERA. Now, specifically, as you're coming in from an nXT platform and already understand how to work with some of that functionality, moving over to XERA, there are a series of comfort points. Despite the fact that the interface at first blush does look a fair bit different, you're going to notice that key work areas that we'll address in today's session will show you exactly how easy it is to move from nXT into confidently using and benefiting from XERA. As such, we're going to focus on a few key highlighted pieces, and again, this is all from a very high-level overview today. The dashboard in XERA replaces the case portal that you'll recognize from nXT. Some key differences in and around that list or that table view display of data. XERA's panels and how they replace the folder tabs you're already familiar with. Searching. Many similarities between those, as well as a few enhancements with XERA. And then much easier viewer presentation, whether or not we're talking about working with your natives, your images, and your text, or in nXT language, that document view scenario. That being said, we're going to jump up and bring in the platform itself. As you can see here, I have my XERA login screen. I had mentioned a few moments ago, we can come in and make use of multi-language logins. If you happen to have a preference for working in German, Spanish, French, Russian, Mandarin, Chinese, Japanese is just simply about to roll out. All of those languages are supported at the interface level, meaning all of the hard-coded buttons within that interface itself will actually change. For example, your folders column will no longer say folders, it would say the German equivalent or the Russian equivalent, etc. Unfortunately, my focus is, of course, in English, so I will stick with that as I log inside. First thing I'm going to see, of course, is my main dashboard. You'll notice that we've really brought collaboration to the forefront within XERA, one of those things we really wanted to stress, so you'll see that throughout the platform. A listing of all projects or my databases, as you may recognize from nXT, listed up down the left-hand side here. Messages and notifications area. This deals with some of the collaboration tied up inside of XERA. We'll take a little bit of a closer look at that towards the tail end. And essentially, as I come in, I just simply grab my project. Now, in the nXT world, once I've logged into a system, I would come in and I could see my case portal. It had a number of items on there listing of some databases, maybe a world clock, maybe some documents we had uploaded and shared, a little messaging area, etc. That's been completely revamped, and we now have our project-specific dashboard with simply a series of tiles allowing me to more easily get insight into what my requirements are into a project, or to jump into specific areas of a database. Things like my tasks tile, where I can come in and take a look at my incomplete tasks. Things like project members. In the event that I needed to communicate with somebody else on my team, I could essentially create a message or a task for them directly out of the system here. So very easy to communicate and collaborate with other team members. In the event that you were doing a batch-based review, nXT's batches, quite frankly, were a little cumbersome to work with. Very easy to come in here and grab that. As you can see, I've already acquired a batch. Anything that's available is listed for me down here, and I can simply acquire these and check them in and check them out. So as a user, grabbing and working with my batches is very easily done. I have also a nice easy little reporting metric here letting me know how I'm progressing through that. Simply check out my batch, move into a database. Again, very easy to do that navigation. Commentary batches, and more importantly, being able to take specific key folder groupings. If you think back to the nXT platform and how you may have certain folder tabs that are of high importance to you. Maybe there's a series of tabs that you as a user are working with, maybe an experts tab, maybe a tab that deals with some of the issues or the custodians as you've gone about organizing your data. You could pick and choose some of those and have them essentially pinned to your dashboard as a bit of a shortcut. So again, a difference in the layout. However, much more functionality that comes in, and again, simple window tiles, very easy to come in and work with. Number of items across the top, though, that unless you're a project manager on the system, you won't ever have to worry about. They'll be completely absent from your interface. I'm going to simply take us right into a database so we can see exactly what that primary view is. And you may recall in nXT, a very popular method of working is, of course, in that list view or table view scenario where I simply have my fields sitting across the top. I can, of course, customize those into different layouts, etc. Same idea inside of XERA. If you work with things like document groups, absolutely carries over as well. So that exact same functionality is all in there. However, one of the key differences with XERA is the way this is displayed and the functionality you have behind it. Unfortunately, in nXT, working out of list view could be a little cumbersome simply because you could only work with your folders by checking off individual documents and looking for that little black triangle to know exactly which record in your list you were talking about. XERA expands upon this by giving you this series of checkboxes down every single record in any of your lists. So any documents that catch your attention, you can work with them en masse or in bulk by simply checking off documents and then adding them into folders, applying some of your coding, etc. So again, much more functionality inside of that, as well as the ability to fix and freeze columns to further enhance your display. If a document in this list catches your attention, you can simply double click on that record and bring up the native or the image that's associated with it. So again, much more functionality from that list view scenario. This carries over as we start talking about and looking into some of the searching as well. With XERA, we've introduced the ability to filter across any of your fields. So if you've worked at any platform that has filtering in it previously, you understand the benefits of that. If you've ever thought, gee, I'd really like to simply filter on my record type field and bring me back all of the documents that are flagged as a .xls. You can easily do that and run this against any number of fields inside of your database. So field level filtering added to your list view is a tremendous efficiency enhancement inside of XERA, providing a lot more functionality to that layout. But again, much like nXT, it's basically a table. It's a list view. It's something very easy to adapt to and to work with. Other similarities step in when we start talking about searching. First of all, nXT's familiar quick search box is still found, and it's found in the exact same location, that upper left-hand corner. I'm going to run a quick keyword search here on the word knee, and it'll help us see how that ties into some of the other things like keyword hit highlighting, etc. Again, similar between both nXT and XERA. You'll notice that when I run searches, an enhancement inside of XERA is the fact that it allows you to stack these searches on top of each other. You can work with your quick search and layer these by utilizing ands, ors, and nots directly from here, or running it like nXT's traditional single term search. Every search I run is essentially run against the entire database. You have a little more flexibility here. But again, finding where to do that, the exact same place. For those users that like to really roll up their sleeves and get into much more robust searching, as I mentioned already, all of your search operators exist and are identical. So your nears, withins, and, ors, nots, working with parentheses, all of those carry over the exact same way. So from a learning curve, it's virtually nil between the two platforms. Beyond that, nXT had an advanced search area. The form of that carries over almost identical into XERA underneath what we call the custom search. And as I bring this up, you should recognize this is probably a very familiar box for you. With the search builder, building a quick search, working with your lookup lists, dictionary lookup, proximity searching, date searching, etc. A couple of little tweaks that have made their way into XERA. We've now moved over your saved searches and your search history into this particular area, so it makes it easier to combine search history and saved searches with what you're doing today. Add that up into my search build at the top here. As well, we've moved over the ability to work with folders in here as well. So limiting my search to specific folders, making it much easier to come in and run specific searches against specific foldered information by simply checking off what you need and building that in. But again, custom search and advanced searching out of nXT are almost exactly identical. So once again, one of those huge barriers people often think about as they think about moving or changing from platforms is having to relearn how to handle searching, because that tends to be one of those very big or heavy learning curve issues, virtually non-existent between the two platforms here. So everything you know inside of nXT carries over into XERA with a few extra enhancements to go along with it. One other introduction, though, that comes in with XERA is the notion of using faceted search. So I simply clip over onto my facet tab here. It opens up my facets list, which essentially allows me to grab specific types of information out of the database. Typically, metadata or record data information that tends to be very heavily searched and filtered on, and to create nothing more than a series of checkbox categories for them. So much like visiting a commercial website like an Amazon or a travel site, where when I'm looking for something on that site, I can work through the categories on the left hand and simply check them off and very quickly filter down to the products I'm looking for, as opposed to having to build extremely large Boolean search strings to find the red toaster for €50 that I'm looking for from a particular manufacturer. Same idea here. They're dynamic as well, so they will play off of any of the other searches I run in the system. Again, something that can be handled much more in depth in a formalized presentation scenario, but again, just one of those little enhancements that come in with XERA. You've probably already noticed one of the key differences is in the layout of that screen. The standard menu down the left-hand side of nXT has been replaced, as that functionality is more specifically located to more appropriate areas of the interface. So from a list view, what do I want to do? I want to be able to run searches, hence my searching is found here. I want to be able to take documents that I'm looking at and potentially organize them through various folders. So as opposed to only having my folder tabs located down the far right of the screen, like we saw inside of nXT, we have them sitting over here, partially on my left. The notion in XERA of panels, these white headings in place here, custodians, coding, issues, etc., replaces nXT's folder tabs, but much of the functionality is exactly the same. For example, color-coded folders, being able to come in and make these personal or publicly available folders, being able to add or remove and create folders on the fly. The little wizards, very easy to come in and work with. Almost identical again to how you're used to seeing them in nXT, with just simply a much nicer presentation here and an easier method of working with them. I've already mentioned the ability to work out of list view, check off multiple documents, and bulk add them or remove them to folders, etc. One other nice little thing inside of XERA is the ability to add descriptive boxes to folders. You'll see here as I hover over my confidential folder, I have a little pop-up that lets me know, hey, all documents in this folder must be confirmed by review team C. I've got a description that comes in around this custodial folder that tells me that this is the COO of my made-up company name here, my MedX. So you can add in a lot of this informational functionality that just adds to the enhancements within XERA. Now, when it comes to working with that document view scenario where you're looking at an individual document, you're looking at the images, the native files, the text associated with that, etc. Maybe you've run some keyword searches. Obviously, a key way of working within nXT. Inside of XERA here, I've simply swiped over. I'm in that document mode now, working with documents containing the keyword "ni" sitting in place here. I have a partial list view scenario here, so I can walk down my list in a much easier scenario, being able to combine some of that list view or table view functionality with my individual documents and my images, much easier than working with icons, etc. that we have inside of nXT. I talked a little bit about word marking. Feature that was in nXT carried over and enhanced inside of XERA, whereby the word marking lists are actually dynamic. It includes any of the keywords we've run that are all highlighted, not just in the text of the document, but also within the native files on the native file viewer. Your keyword list can be turned on or off. They're dynamic to let you know how many of those terms of importance, those persistent hits, may show up on a document. So again, much more functionality inside of that listing. When it comes time to work with the viewers, you'll notice inside of XERA they are much more clearly situated. There are no little tiny diamond or paper icons to worry about trying to grab them off of a particular field or anything of that nature. You simply work with the appropriate tab. Your native file viewer tab, images tab in the event that you need to rip this document to a tip on the fly for markup purposes, or your text view tab, which is similar to that individual document view out of nXT, where I happen to have them listed with my metadata fields, any terms of importance, highlights, etc. So again, very easy to come in and work with these. Dual screen monitors, of course, are fully supported as well, much like nXT. Simply click on my little icon in place here. But the key difference is I'm not jumping back and forth, moving to an image viewer sitting on the right hand side of the screen and then flipping to another icon or flipping to another icon, etc. Once again, very cleanly situated. And we look at the enhancements, familiar annotation redaction toolbar, with the enhancements of adding custom markups as well as inverse redactions inside of the system, being able to come in and very quickly apply an inverse redaction to the entire document with the exception of that particular area there. One key benefit for those coming out of nXT, of course, is the fact that XERA auto saves my markups. There's no need to remember to manually click off a little save icon, a little disk sitting in your viewer to make sure any redactions or markups on a document you place are in fact saved. We auto save that. As you see here, it hovers over and lets me know that, hey, it already knows this was created by me at this particular date and time. There are enhanced keyboard shortcuts as well. As I come over to my little keyboard tray here to take a look at what exactly is in there, we can see keyboard shortcuts not just to move from document to document or within a document using page up, page down, but keyboard shortcuts to select various annotation and redaction tools. So a lot of enhancements again to speed up the efficiency of your review. As I come into this document view panel, we'll also notice that down the right-hand side of my screen, I happen to have a coding panel set in place, very familiar to the Review tab out of NXT, where we can come in and we can see, for example, radio buttons, checkbox folders, you can color code your groups in, and all of those good things. Now I'm going to grab a slightly different document out of my listing here. Take a look at some of the other functionality that we're afforded inside of XERA and how that plays in with some things we do inside of nXT. As I bring this document up here, we'll see again with my coding panel in place, you can also add in what we call edit control boxes to help streamline and better address workflow and coding preferences in the event that you want to have things like lookup list or pick list coding functionality. That's now situated right here on your list. Maybe you want to make use of things like attorney notes fields, commentary fields, date fields. Those can be intermixed right within your coding panels. And you'll notice the coding panels, once again, very similar to what we've already seen with folders and the folders inside of NXT, with yet again some new enhancements to go along with that, as well as some other functionality like navigation rules in XERA to require certain coding designations. XERA also brings to us a key function called comments, the ability to come in and simply highlight a portion of a document and allow me to apply a comment, much like an NXT sticky note. However, it jumps me right to that portion of the document. When a user tells me this may be key for a certain deposition, I can click and jump right to that important key part of the document. And then, of course, being able to make use of things like analytics where appropriate. XERA brings us a related tab outlining things like email threads, near duplicates, similar concept documents, and similar to nXT's attachment compare feature, little attach compare, that was a drop-down list across the top where you could take a look at things like near duplicates and see exactly where some of the differences may be. Inside of NXT, it essentially gave us a couple of red lines and some strike-throughs. XERA really enhances this document comparison functionality by allowing me to come in and apply and compare these documents truly side by side to see exactly what's been added or removed from the originating document versus those documents that I'm comparing it against. And as we see here, I get my listing in my list view of my subset, my originating document, anything that's been removed highlights in red, anything that's been added highlights in green. Much like keyword hit highlighting, we can see where all the differences reside. I can come in, I can take a look at the originating document and see what's been removed. I can see here individually what's been added. Or once again, compare those side by side, jump to the different hits in the document, as well as take a closer look at the importance or the size of the differences. Sort that out, jump directly to specific parts of the document, and very quickly make determinations on where these documents may in fact differ. So as we can see, very similar functionality to a lot of key things inside of NXT, designed in a much more intuitive, modern, user-friendly interface. Now, hopefully this high-level overview has helped demonstrate how quickly and easily any user, especially those already familiar with the NXT platform, can be up and running, working both effectively and efficiently within XERA. It truly isn't as hard of a switch as one initially thinks, and after you've begun working with it, you'll quickly understand why XERA has been dubbed as the platform that works the way you think.